Watched the whole Sydney Sweeney GQ interview, and super hot take here. I'm ready for my butt to be eaten. The interview was a hard watch from the beginning, and it was because of the interviewer. She didn't do a good job. And I feel like everything that's happening with media nowadays, like you have the last few standing pillars of journalism, but then you have this new wave, which is basically just people going on podcasts and like podcast journalism. And in the middle of podcasts and like the New York Times are places like GQ and Vogue and all of these magazines that are trying to kind of go in between. And then they're doing the worst parts of both of it, basically, because this interviewer kept asking Sydney Sweeney questions in this like meandering voice where you could tell she wasn't even sure of what she was saying herself. And she wasn't asking Sydney direct questions like, what do you think of white supremacy? Do you think it's a problem right now? But instead, she was basically being like, so like people said this thing about the ad, like it could have gone this way or that way or even a third way. What do you think? It was a perfect opportunity for Sydney to be like, I think nothing. It was a jeans ad. And if you know anything about Sydney Sweeney, we did a deep dive on her. Her number one thing whenever there's controversy, she has a pattern and it's minimizing. It's minimizing and labeling something to pretend that it's nothing, okay? When there were MAGA people at her like mom's birthday party, her response was basically, it's a birthday party. When she was selling her bathwater, she was like, it's soap. And it's like, it's not soap though. You were selling sex in your naked body. But her response is always to be like, it's soap. So it wasn't surprising that she was like, it's a jeans ad. Which is why we needed a better interviewer. Like when someone does a dog whistle, you can't then sit them down for an interview and be like, so it seemed like you were kind of saying A, but then also maybe it could have been B or it could have been C. Which one was it? You're giving them too much wiggle room. You have to be like, what do you think about X? And not give them multiple choice, make them do open-ended answer response.